Y'all planning for this?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of the Perfect RIA podcast, Reading Time with Jarvis. Over the last 15 years, I've read some 300 business books, most of which can be found on my office bookshelf, which, by the way, is a great credibility builder, whether that's in your office lobby, like at my office, or when you're doing virtual meetings. That's a great background, right? When you walk into an attorney's office, they have all of their legal books up against the wall. In fact, once I was at an attorney's office, they had these hundreds of legal books. I walk over, I pull one off the shelf, I open it. I can tell that no one has ever actually read the book. And the attorney comes around the corner and he's shocked that I'm touching these books. He says, What are you doing? Why are you touching our books? And I said, they're books. They're here to read. And he says, no, those books are not there to read. We have computers for that. Those books are there to establish credibility for our practice. Please don't touch them. So I carefully put them back. But that's not what we're talking about today, how to look cool. What we want to talk about is, of course, how to be cool. And a great way to be cool is to read more books. Though oddly, I never got that lesson growing up. But anyway, today I want to talk about another author who has really rocked my world. Of course, last time we talked about Nick Murray. This time I want to talk about Jocko Willink. And Micah and I talk a lot about Jocko, especially his book, Extreme Ownership and Dichotomy of Leadership. But today I want to talk about his book, Leadership Strategy and Tactics, where Jocko really dives into leadership. And again, his background is primarily in the Navy SEALs, but he's also done a lot of business consulting. And I actually had the chance to spend 4 hours with Jocko's team on a flight to Los Angeles and back to Seattle. I happened to be sitting with them in first class. And in fact, Jocko lives all these principles. I know that that's probably not a surprise for anyone, but his team employed all of these. They were a very empowered team, a very professional team. I was impressed. So here are my top 3 takeaways from Jocko's book, Leadership Strategies and Tactics. Takeaway number 1, let your team do it their way. Jocko talks about in his book that there's a temptation as a leader to see anytime the team is working, to go in there and say, you know what, you could have done this a little bit better. I would have done it this way. I know you did this shade of blue. I'm going to do this shade of blue. I know you said it in 10 words. I'm going to add an 11th word. There's a real temptation as a leader to say, boy, my job is to add one more, to have the last word. And Jocko explains that that's very damaging to the team. It undermines them. It prevents them from taking action on their own. And you create this formula where everyone has to go to you for the last word. You are now a bottleneck for everything that happens in the team. And so Jocko recommends that unless your team is doing something that is catastrophic or potentially catastrophic, something that, in Jocko's words, threatens the mission, let them do it their way. Now, again, Jocko was working with Navy SEALs in literal life and death situations. We advisors of the Perfect RIA Nation are not dealing with life and death, so sometimes it can feel that way. And so as you delegate things to your team, unless they come back with a proposal or an activity that is illegal, immoral, or somehow going to jeopardize the client relationship in a way that they couldn't see, let them do it that way. Let them take leadership, let them take initiative, let them have the autonomy, the mastery to do it their way, and only interrupt, only interject if it's going to, as Jocko would say, threaten the mission. Takeaway number 2, Jocko calls this pick up the brass. Apparently, when the Navy SEALs are doing training exercises, they are, of course, shooting a lot of guns, and there are bullet casings laying all over the place, tens of thousands of them, which have to be gathered up and recycled, I would imagine. Jocko explained that he would, even as a high-level commander, he would go out and help pick up the brass because it was just the worst job. It was the job that nobody wanted to do. And I think this is an important lesson for advisors because while we need to delegate a lot of tasks, almost all tasks, delegation should never be viewed as a way to just dump the crap off on somebody else. If there is a task that comes up that's just menial and tedious and the only way is to slog through it, don't ever let your team feel like you're just dumping that on them. Feel free to step up and work right there alongside them and offer that. So I know a lot of times, an example in my office, we still like to put a lot of things out in the mail. And if I notice that Colleen's really getting jammed up on those, I'll say, hey, Colleen, would you like my assistance folding this mail and helping get it out? Now, is that the highest and best use of my time? No, it is certainly not. However, it demonstrates to Colleen with sincerity that I'm willing to support her in any way that I can even if it's something that no one enjoys, even if it's something that's not the best use of my time. Now, most of the time, Colleen will say, no, I have this under control. And if she did need my help more than once or twice, I would work with her to find another solution to that. So don't be afraid to pick up the brass, but at the same point, don't get pulled into things that are not your highest and best use. Jocko lesson number 3, the imposter syndrome gets us all. Jocko goes specifically into when we're put into a leadership position, which could be when you hire your first virtual assistant. It could be when you're adding your 3rd or 4th or 5th team member. When we're put into this leadership position, almost all of us feel very intimidated by that. We feel unqualified. And as Jocko says, that's perfectly normal. And it's good because it means that we're humble. And instead of worrying about whether you're qualified to be your leader or not, view it as an opportunity to learn and grow. So when you hear that voice that says, you're not qualified to be a leader, how can you possibly have team members, employees underneath you? Say, great, thank you for sharing. This is my opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to take my game to the next level. And something that I use is, what would Jocko do here? What's a great leader that I respect? What would they do in that situation? And I'll just pretend to be a good leader until, in fact, I figure it out. Now, as you all know, I love reading books. I love reading hard copies of books, but I highly recommend that you listen to Jocko's books. You can get them on Audible. His communication style is so powerful that it really brings the message home. So Jocko's book, Leadership Strategy and Tactics, highly recommend it. And in the immortal words of Nacho Libre, go away, read some books.
Hold on before we go, something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife.